Excellence with Professor Teodros Kiros continues a series that have been developing at Berklee College of Music with some of my incredibly talented students. My viewers, the admirers of excellence with Professor Teodros Kiros, have been introduced already to Yara Shahidi, my ex-student at Harvard University, and also Aidan Solomons, and recently Camille Cam Silas, and Ellie Nicholson. And today, Excellence, sponsored by the Hutchins, sponsored would not be the right term, supported by the Hutchins Center at Harvard University, brings you for the first time two extremely talented students that I discovered only recently in my famous Africana philosophy course at Berklee College of Music. Susan Odambo from Kenya, and Ian from California, I believe. I have invited them to have a conversation with me for the next 30 minutes or so, and then to be followed by musical talents that they're going to exhibit for us, hopefully for 20 to 30 minutes. So I want to invite both of you and introduce you to my audience by way of saying thanks for coming. So let's begin going at it. Let's begin by talking about your lives separately. Let me begin with Susan, and then Ian will follow. Introduce yourself to the audience, Susan. Who are you? What do you do? When did you come to the US? What has been your experience thus far? What are the challenges, so on and so forth? Take your time. Don't get nervous. Develop a narrative about yourself.
Right. Hello. Thanks for having me on your platform, Tedros. I'm really honored. My name is Susan Odambo. I am from Nairobi, Kenya. I just recently graduated Berklee College of Music in my degree in songwriting and recording and production as well. I came to Boston, my first time in America, in 2021 to pursue my education here. And it's been a very interesting experience, very, very different from what I'm used to back home, but it has been also a very mind-opening, and I've been challenged in so many ways, and I feel like I've grown in so many ways. And I can't wait to even just go back home and share all these things that I've learned, if I do get that opportunity. But I came here wanting to do music. I wanted to be an artist, but as I was pursuing my studies in songwriting, I think I realized I think I want to do more. I can do more work, more impactful work behind the scenes more than I am like on the front line. And so I want to serve more through songwriting and helping people put their ideas together, their musical ideas together. I enjoy curating performances. I enjoy just making art and that entire creative process. It's just something that brings me so much joy since I was a child. And writing and just telling stories is something that I know that I do very well. And so using the medium of music to do that has just been such a cool thing to do. So I want to do that more, even in my career. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. Yeah.
There's quite a bit in there that will slice into parts a bit later. How about you, Ian, from the great state of California?
Yes, sir. Born and raised. Um, Thank you for having me on your platform. I'm honored to be here and glad to share this opportunity with Susan. Uh, Taking your class this past semester was a highlight of the year for me, and I'm very grateful to continue our relationship. As Tedros said, I hail from Southern California, raised in Pasadena. Um, I've always seen my relationship with music and life to be symbiotic. From the moment I was born, uh, I didn't have musicians in my immediate family, but I was surrounded with music that was not only uh, dense and rich musically, but also very conscious music that was uplifting and also historically relevant. So I had a very strong musical background, and um, growing up, I was always encouraged to be active in my community and to serve, and uh, volunteering was normal. Serving uh, in like student government was encouraged, and being active member of my community was very important. And a little more about like me and what I'm doing. I'm entering my junior year at Berklee. Um, I actually didn't think I was going to be a Berklee student at first, because when I was applying for colleges, I was doing so hoping to study political science. And so I've always had that um, social consciousness at the forefront of my head, but I believe that God and the universe said you can do both. You can pursue your passions for music and still want to have an impact and help people through that. So that's what I feel like I'm stepping into, or that I've been crafting the past 2 years and continue to do so. Um, as I remain at Berklee. But that's a little bit about me so far. And yeah, I can't wait to continue to grow and really explore my full potential in terms of creating meaningful art.
Now, Susan, it is generally the case, I stress generally the case, that African musicians seem to have an innate capacity to do the music. They don't seem to require any specialized training. Some of the greats in the African context are self-educated musicians. I'm thinking of the likes of the great Sona Jobote, for example. And there are a legion of other names whose names do not come quite readily to me. If that's the case, why would an African hail from Kenya when this African could be trained by the great griots in the west, the east, in the south, and north at Berklee? What is it that Berklee can provide the African musician who could not be trained by using the native resources of the continent?
That question will take us to a whole other place. So it is true that I think a lot of musicians, even in anywhere, they don't really need training to be musicians, to be great musicians. You can just do it if you practice, right? But I think the country that I come from and the family that I come from, we value education a lot. And so if there's anything you want to do, they say you get an education on that. And I think it's something that has been it's influenced a little bit by that colonial mindset where we have to get an education to be better at something. It's not even normal for a Kenyan to go to a school of music, because music, even in Kenya, is not really considered a viable career, viable option just to like succeed in life. It's mostly all the things that are towards like academia. So if you want to be a lawyer, doctor, engineer, the usual thing that I think a lot of Africans tend to focus on. So music in general and even just the arts in my country, I can only speak for my country, it was taken out of the curriculum. So we were not taught anything about music. So even if you wanted to learn something, you couldn't really learn. Um, they took home science out, they took agriculture out, home, like all the things that you just need to know. And it mostly focused on maths and sciences and all those things. So I think the reason why not just me, but most African musicians sometimes come to seek an education outside is because it's not offered back home. And I think we also kind of want to know how, I mean, in America, for example, this is like the hub of the entertainment industry in the whole world, I think. They tend to dictate what happens. So I think Africans want to know what's actually going on and they want to get ahead of that as well. Um, but I think it would be a really beautiful thing if these things were actually offered back home by our musicians, by our griots, which I do know, like Sonajo Barte has one. She made a school. But it's now coming back, slowly coming back, but it's now so like it's not very resourced, so people don't even know where to start. My mother is a teacher and they have music in her school. They just started, and she also just doesn't even know where to get instruments, where to get books, where to even get music teachers, because it's not we're not educated that way. We're only educated towards academia and not the arts. And so someone who wants to pursue the arts feels like they have to go outside of the continent to make it. And even as artists, there's this colonial mindset that Africans still have where it's like if you make it outside of Africa, then they consider that you have done a good job. Case in point, someone like Lupita, she was home the entire time and she was an actress the entire time back home, but it was only until she went to Yale and did her degree and then finally was in all these movies and got an Oscar. That's when people back home started to notice her and paid attention to her. So it's a very weird place, and it shouldn't feel like I have to come, but it's like almost the only option that I have if I want to pursue an education in music.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Very candid, very detailed, and compelling.
Mhm.
I can imagine asking the same question to Ian, simply change the context from Africa to African American. Would this same question be of concern to you also? Or would that be a question that would make sense to an African American?
No, I definitely understand the sentiment of the question. And I think it can be applied to the African American experience because um, our communities, of course, they're very musically inclined just because of the cultural significance that music has had, specifically in America. And uh, not comparing, but looking at it through the framework of the Black struggle, I think specifically in America, music has played a vital part in our communities. But in terms of actually seeking an education for the arts, um, I don't think is as immediately encouraged as something more seen as like stable or long lasting, like law or medicine or uh, fields of that nature, even like in education, like teaching, or even though I still feel like we don't have enough Black teachers in our schools, but that's a conversation for another day. um, I do think that generally the consensus among Black Americans is that uh, or at least like middle class, upper class Black Americans, is that you go to school, you get an education, and uh, you make a way for yourself versus doing that via the arts or via something that's not seen as linear, but more so, you know, a journey with ebbs and flows. But in my experience, like with my personal family, I feel like my journey has been supported because my family like could see the work that I was putting in, saw that I had a passion for it, and that if I were to take it seriously, it wouldn't be to their disadvantage. It would be an advantage versus putting me in an environment where they knew I probably would uh, not fail, but struggle and feel unlike myself.
Okay, and now let's move to talk about what you learned from this foundational course at Berkeley called Africana philosophy, Africana philosophy, in which both of you were students and through which I discovered and learned from the two of you. What did you take uh, from this course that is going to enhance your musicality? Perhaps I should reverse the order this time. Why don't I begin with Ian? And be
Uh,
reminded, you need not flatter me.
you said, can you repeat it? I didn't hear you.
What did you learn from this course?
No, just the last part about flattering you.
You need not feel the pressure of flattering me. You can
Oh,
be
no, no, no.
very
You
honest.
feel flattered already. You get that when you wake up in the morning.
I thank you. You're so kind.
Nah, but I'll answer. I think that this course really opened my eyes to the power that we have as musicians to really shift the consciousness of people, um, and do it in a way that promotes a healthy society, and uh, because it's rooted in values of Kemet, of Yoruba, of Igbo, and of all these cultures that we learned about over the course of the course. Over the course of the course is crazy. But over time and learning these values and learning how to think about them critically and analyze them in a way that can be useful rather than just examining them for what they are, which I feel like is the case with a lot of uh, courses that focus on things outside of the African diaspora. But uh, for this course specifically, I feel very empowered. I feel very responsible as a musician to inform the consciousness of the people and do it in a way that uh, makes it universal, so that uh, all of us, whether no matter the walk of life that we've walked, like we can come together and create a change that will last rather than something that comes and goes with trends. I think this class left me with a sense of responsibility and of power.
How about you, Susan?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I felt the same way. I felt that I am more responsible now for the art that I put out. And I think in this course, I remember we learned about like how African art fosters individuality um and all that. And I as much as I don't come from a culture that is now it is becoming more of like an individual type of culture where it's like it's only centered on towards the self. I think I find that I want my art to be more about the community because I feel like I'm responsible with how I inform the community, like learning about the griots, and they were the people who they were kind of like the history keepers. They kept the stories, they kept all these information. Like if you needed anything, you'd go to them. And I feel like I'm kind of like a griot myself. I'm that way in my family. If people need pictures, if people need things, they always come to me because I remember dates and I remember things like that. And and I have the ability to also put it in music and to tell this story of an African person at this time, and to say it authentically as well, and not to try and sugarcoat and make it look nice and this is how it is. And I think it's my responsibility to just tell the truth
Yeah.
in my music, and in any other art form that I choose to do, just to tell the truth, and not to also make it just about all the flashy stuff and try to be impressive, but really just be honest and be authentic. And that's what I got from this class, is that I have so much work to do. There's so much that needs to be undone. There's so much that needs to be unlearned from the way we pursue music careers nowadays. Because we make it so much about ourselves and how are we going to succeed. And I think looking even at African philosophy, Africana philosophy, and how it shines a light on like the African intellect and things like that. Like I feel like those are things that people need to know, and it needs to be encouraged. And so I want to make art that encourages that. I want to make art that encourages people to think, that encourages people to have discourse. I want to encourage people to, and also just to have fun. To, um, I think that's what I got from this class in a nutshell. It's a lot.
Can I talk about something that Susan said really quickly? I
Mhm.
remember you at the beginning of your statement, you mentioned that the philosophy around individuality in the African diaspora, and I feel as though, and I don't know if you feel the same, but my sense of self and identity was largely influenced by my community, and it's always been an exchange rather than leaving the community in order to find yourself. It's more so interacting with your community and being fed and nourished as a child and growing up, just with good spiritual food, and having that as a foundation, I think is very important to my identity. And I assume that other people in the diaspora would feel similarly. But I just wanted to touch on that. I thought that was great.
Okay. So, eye-opening. Now, let's localize the conversation on Berkeley. As you can imagine, philosophy at Berkeley is a sort of imposition on the institution. There is no department of philosophy. It's a one-man department, as it were. And all the philosophy courses stand out like thumbs in a very unusual place where students are coming to learn music. And here you land on the philosophy courses that I teach, which are bound to be, by definition, critical, interrogative, practices in which suppressed truths are revealed in the open air, prejudices and biases are professionally challenged, and the person who teaches the course is vulnerable. Because unlike any other course, music course that is taught at Berkeley, one cannot simply teach techniques of playing music. This is a course that is questioning the very existence of the techniques themselves and the contributions of the techniques and the productions of musicians cultivated by these techniques is being linked to what both of you quite appropriately called social consciousness, the transformation of the world. And this is dangerous for the instructor. It's equally dangerous for the students because the students are going to be very critical of the music industry upon graduating. So, how are we going to respond to these challenges? Or rather, how are you going to respond to these challenges after you graduate? Since the course's aim is to radicalize you, literally, to make you revolutionary musicians, not just accommodators of culture, but critical interpreters of culture, which must necessarily include the culture of the music industry. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a very, I think doing anything revolutionary has serious costs. And I think that's something that even as musicians here at Berklee, we have to take that into account. And it's whether do you want to pay that cost or do you want to accommodate what's already there? I think having a course like philosophy at Berklee is a bold thing to do. But I don't know. I'm trying to be careful with my words here, but I I don't know if it's like do we really want to practice what we learn, and are we just being taught to know things, or are we just being taught to actually do stuff? Because then when students actually apply the things that they learn, some of the things that are considered revolutionary, then they get really criticized for it. When that's what I came to do, to learn, to be challenged and to challenge. And so I think it just depends on the person. It depends on why they want to do this in the first place. Do you want to make music just because you want to be popular? Do you want to make music just because you want to sound amazing, or to make money? Or do you want to actually change and revolutionize what's already and change what's happening that you don't like, that's in the industry that you don't like? And I think Berklee pays a lot of attention to that. Like they want to make musicians that last for a long time, but it's not just the music that speaks, it's also the person. And so I think we need to also cultivate that. It's not just because we've seen time and time again amazing musicians and then things that come out about them that tarnish who they are. And separating the artist from the music is very hard to do because it's who they are. And so when we cultivate that, then I think that will help revolutionize some things in the industry. It will change some things, but it will cost a lot. And I feel like it's just up to the person. Like, do they want to pay that cost, or do they just want to be comfortable and just do just stick to the status quo and just keep doing what's already been done and play it safe and not apply what they know. But I don't think you can only keep up that facade for a very short time, because it will still hurt you to a point. Yeah.
How about you, Ian? Same question.
1000%. If I can speak on Berklee, and I say this just completely honestly, I feel as though now Berklee has shifted their focus into the brand of a person, or the business, and a little bit of the musician. And they've focused on that, or they're focusing on that now more so than the human. So it's not surprising that it's hard to find a philosophy course that challenges the psyche and the roots of our opinions, our thoughts, what we think about the world, how we see it, how we view it. Because now the focus is changed in order to accommodate the shifts in the economy. And I understand it from a business point of view, but from a human point of view, I see that potentially having some problems. And I think it's our responsibility as the students. I consider myself blessed to be here, but I also understand that I have a duty and a responsibility to use the resources allotted to me in order to return my knowledge and return the information that I've gained to the greater community. And I don't think that's necessarily being encouraged. I think it's being encouraged to uh, keep a community of alumni and of, uh, Berklee affiliates, but when it comes to affecting real people in the real world, I think there's a little bit of a disconnect. And I think that is now the challenge for us in order to use these resources. And not only Berklee students, I feel like that's a new responsibility for all college students in this time, in this era, especially politically with what's going on. I think it's necessary that we come out of the gate with that on our forefront.
Right. You're so mature. And now, let's go light now. We have been going quite heavily and responded to the heaviness very impressively. Let's go light and talk about Berklee. Is it fun to be at Berklee? A joyous place that you look forward to be at? What is it like to be at Berklee?
Susan, you got it.
I was Ian, do you want to take that one?
No, it's great. It's great. It's great. There is a sense of community, I feel like, in spite of the issues. Of course, everything has its roses and thorns, but I feel a strong sense of community here. And I feel like once you find your people, that's what really tips it over the edge, and you can really, start to find yourself in your friend groups or with your classmates. In this case, I definitely experienced that. And so I applaud Berklee for creating that environment for us. That's how I'm gonna respond to that.
Yeah, I think Berklee, I mean, when I joined Berklee, also just from an international perspective, it's my first time in America. It's my first time interacting with people from like different cultures. It was my first time seeing Mexicans. I had never seen Mexicans
Wow.
in my life. I'm being so like just people from South America because they're not in Africa, so we've never seen them before. So
Right.
it was just like an interesting. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much culture here. Um, but at first it was very hard, I would say, because I'm still trying to find how I fit in this new environment, right? And then people always tell me, Berklee is what you make it. You have to just go out there and go for these opportunities. But when you tell that to like an introvert like me, I'm like, I just want to stay in the house. I don't want to go anywhere. But they're like, no, you have to be outside. You have to go and connect and you have to go for gigs and do all these things. Now, Berklee does a great job at creating a lot of these spaces where people can go for shows. You can, just interact with students. But I think there's also just a culture at Berklee where like people also don't do that. And I feel like some people are scared to go for these opportunities, and or some opportunities feel like there's a gatekeeping with some opportunities sometimes. So it's hard to even connect with people. And I feel like when from my experience, I started to feel more settled, like towards like my maybe fourth or fifth semester. That was a long time. I've been here for almost 2 years, and it was towards like my last years of being at Berklee. That's when I started feeling like, oh, okay, this is what it's like to be in this school. But it's because it took a while for me to get used to people and to get used to the community. But there is a community if you seek it out.
Mm.
But at the same time, some of these spaces are kind of reserved, and you don't know whether you can go there or not. You don't know. As an African, I didn't know whether like I could just like express my Africanness, or I had to keep it down a little bit, or like, do I have to change my accent for you to hear me? Or,
Mm.
things like that. I felt like when I had a friend of mine who told me it's easy to become lost and lose your personality, because you're trying so hard to affiliate and become, accepted in another culture. And she was just telling me, just hold on to who you are, and eventually you will find your own people. I think it's this last semester that I feel like I actually started connecting with people. And it's actually through your class that I was like, oh, this feels more of like a community than most of the classes that I've been in, where we actually talk outside of class. I don't really,
Yeah.
I don't think that's ever happened. Like, we just went and chilled and we just talk at the playground and just talk about things, because I think the things that we discuss in class is so outside of music. It's actually like affecting our real lives, which
Yes.
helps to foster that community. So when we get outside of class, we get to talk about that even more. I'm like, oh, in class you said this and that. What did you mean? Well, we just try to understand each other more outside of music, which I feel like, as much as it's easy for musicians to connect musically, I find that I get deeper connections with people when I just talk about things that aren't even like musically related. And that's what I found even taking Africana philosophy, or just this class specifically that I just had. And so yeah, just long-winded answer. But yeah, this community at Berklee, you just have to seek it out. And it's fun. It's what you make it. It's honestly what you make it. It is. Yeah.
Well, some of my students over the past 15 years or so were both black, brown, yellow, and other possibilities of the self complain bitterly, as Susan was hinting, that it's only in a class such as mine in which they feel sufficiently comfortable to speak and interact as human beings.
Mm.
Or these other classes, they feel, in spite of the mask of diversity, I'm not sure if I like that term anymore, it's
Mm.
becoming meaningless. They just feel like others at Berkeley. As Susan was contending, it appears as if there are certain gates that they cannot enter, and in that the facade of diversity that the institution uses to lure students to come to its gates to be trained musically are not as real as they should be, that there is a lot of alienation in the classes. I sometimes survey the cafeteria in which I eat my morning breakfast. It breaks my heart to see tables that are specifically populated by Asians with Asians, blacks with blacks, whites with whites, women with women, and so on, in spite of this mask of diversity. Of course, it is tremendously challenging for a single institution to correct these conditionings that have been taking place ever since the Republic was founded. But that the challenge still remains, and in that these bureaucratic officers at the university are not exactly attending to them, since the primary motivation, and quite rightly, is to garner money, huge amounts of money that the president and others must solicit in order to maintain the salaries of our administrators and the faculty at Berkeley. What are your thoughts about this? This is rather a heavy question, but I thought you might have probably accidentally thought of it, or maybe you didn't.
I definitely would second your statement. I feel as though whilst the numerically speaking, Berkeley has a nice amount of different people from all over the world. Like I can say that I've met confidently someone from like you name a country and I've met somebody from there. But at the same time, you can't just place, people from everywhere in an environment and expect, them not to retort to what feels familiar. There has to be a conscious engagement. There has to be, an effort put forth to merge not only the community but also the consciousness of the community. That's why consciousness is so important, because it informs the decisions. It informs where people sit in the cafeteria, who people feel comfortable around. And it makes sense because, naturally you're going to gravitate towards people who have a similar experience to you. But at the same time, you're not going to grow as a human being. You're not going to grow as a musician if you aren't exposing yourself to people with different viewpoints, different perspectives, different cultural upbringings, different customs. Like my own views about the world and about what's important in life have been challenged every day because I I make it a important for me in order to do that work and develop in that way. But I think that should just be encouraged naturally. I think that should be something, even starting at orientation week, that is just like, you are going to be put outside of your comfort zone. I feel like there's too much comfort in the social uh, climate here. And I think that that's something that can be affected and changed, but the focus is shifted to other things.
Yeah, I agree. I think um people come to college and they still expect to be like who they were in high school or things like that, when it's like in college you are kind of an adult. You're a young adult. And adulthood also means you're going to be uncomfortable. And I don't think sometimes we are ready for that. And sometimes I think with institutions, in an effort to just like make every student comfortable, they don't encourage discomfort, and they don't encourage things that is just like normal. You're going to experience these things, and college is the best place to start. With like talking to people from different cultures, all these things that would just challenge you as a person, as a musician, or whatever it is you want to do. Um, I do think it's a lot of work, I would say, honestly, for like an institution to be like, okay, diversity, diversity, like it also takes the students to also want be um to be involved in that. Because we can talk about diversity all we want, but if there's no unity in there, then we're just like segregated people, we just, and it's true, honestly, like your observations going to the cafeteria and things like that. Like I see that. I know where the Black students hang out. I know where the white students hang out. I know where the Hispanic students hang out, where the Asians, like I know it. There's spaces where I know where they are. And I just noticed that, a segregation happening. I honestly don't know what exactly Berklee, the institution, the administration can do to foster that. But I mean, to help that change. Um, but I think it can just start, honestly, with classes about philosophy, where people don't talk about music all the time, where people talk about real stuff that happens. And that way you're actually challenged. I find that a lot of the liberal arts courses are actually pretty helpful with doing that. But it's not a priority because it's a music school. So music takes preeminence, but I think it's a very hard task to do. Um, and I think it's something that Berklee needs to consider a lot, because you can say that that this is a diverse school, but it's just like, no, it's segregated. It's
Mm.
There's many people from different cultures who still stay in their cultures while they come here. They don't meet up, they don't unite, and people just want to stay that way. And it's obviously not Berklee's fault, like you said. It's just in the whole institution, like just racism and all that. It's like it's in there. And it's hard to undo hundreds, almost thousands of years of just that type of indoctrination. Um, but I think it can be done. It's going to take time, but I think it can be done. And if Berklee is really serious about actually not just talking about diversity, but like unity in diversity, like
Yeah.
people actually just having serious conversations, because that's what Berklee is about. I don't want to just come to school to learn how to sing these notes and, play these songs on a piano. That's great. And it
I do
helps
that
my,
at home.
yeah, like it helps my artistry. But like I am an artist and I am a full person. I'm not just a musician on one side. I have my thoughts, I have my feelings, and they all work together. So how are we making fully rounded artists, just not the techniques and the stuff like that, but also like our thoughts and our opinions and all the things that we know, like maybe this is not like an acceptable opinion, but I'm just going to share it respectfully and, just trying to foster that. It's going to take hard work though, but I think it can be done.
Well, this is one of the longest, truly substantive 1 hour conversation that I have had with students. And there are only about 10 minutes left, and I'll be deceiving the viewers if I do not give you a chance to play for us. As Miles Davis famously says, can you play? So let's play. And that will end the episode. So why don't you play a piece each for us?
I can start us off. I am battling some serious allergies right now, so my voice is not at the best place.
Me too. Me too.
As you can hear, I'm clogged.
You got it.
But I will try and sing for you today. I'm gonna do the song by Lauryn Hill. She's one of my favorite artists. I sing the song all the time. It's called X Factor. Yeah, let's go. Try to do this in less than 10 minutes. I don't know if you can hear it. It could all be so simple, but you'd rather make it hard. Loving you is like a battle, and we both end up in scars. Tell me who I have to be to gain some reciprocity. See, no one loves you more than me, and no one ever will. Is this just a silly game that forces you to act this way? It forces you to scream my name and then pretend that you can't stay. Tell me who I have to be to gain some reciprocity. See, no one loves you more than me, and no one ever will. No matter how I think we grow, you always seem to let me know it ain't working, it ain't working. And when I try to walk away, you hurt yourself to make me stay. This is crazy, this is crazy. Oh, I keep letting you back in. How can I explain myself? As painful as this thing has been, I just can't be with no one else. See, I know what you have to do. You let go, and I'll let go too. See, no one's hurt me more than you know, and no one ever will. No matter how I think we grow, you always seem to let me know it ain't working, it ain't working. And when I try to walk away, you hurt yourself to make me stay. This is crazy. This is crazy. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Easy. How do I follow that?
Oh, please, Ian. Please. Don't even start. Don't even. This man right here, bro.
Hey, hey.
All right.
Okay, so I unfortunately don't have access to a piano right now, and my piano's my principal instrument. However, if it's okay with you, Tedros, I have a song prepared that I can sing. I was gonna sing "Love's in Need of Love Today" by Stevie Wonder. Ooh, good morning or evening, friend. Here's your friendly announcer. I have serious news to pass on to everybody. What I'm about to say could mean the world's disaster, could turn your joy and laughter to tears and pain. Isn't that love in need of love today? Oh, don't delay. Send yours in right away, away. Don't you know that hate gone round, yeah, breaking many hearts. Oh, yeah. Won't you stop it, please, before it goes too far? Yeah. Won't you say, ooh, ooh, oh, yeah, yeah. The force of evil plans aims to make you its possession. And if we will, if we let it destroy everybody, yeah, we all must take precautionary measures. Oh, if love and peace you treasure, then you hear me when I say, oh, it's that love's in need of love today. Yeah, don't delay. Send yours in right away. Yeah, is that hate go round, breaking many hearts. Oh, stop it, please, before it goes too far. Yeah. Ooh. 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 yeah. Thank you.
This has been quite a treat for excellence with Professor Teodros Kiros, a professor of philosophy at Berklee College of Music and also Harvard's Summer School. It has been a pleasure to invite the two of you for this splendid performance.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Such an honor. Such an honor to be a student as well. We've learned so much from you. Thank you so much.